Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, New Orleans style, Governor Kay Ivey takes another run for her office. Also, the V team takes a look at what's next for prisons. And is Bo Brooks ducking a subpoena?
Little pigs, let me come in.
Oh, that's not a duck. That's a pig fly. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Boyd Britt, and today we're coming to you from New Orleans, Louisiana, the French Quarter. And my guest is Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter for APR. Hey, Josh, don't you wish you were here?
Yeah, well, you know, not all of us are coming from New Orleans, apparently, so it's nice.
No, we're here to celebrate Beth Clayton's wedding.
Kyle
they had
Pierce.
that this weekend. And Kyle Pierce. They both got married to each other. So we were glad that someone would take them. I mean, that they would take.
They're so happy. It's crazy.
Yeah, great.
They're so happy.
Hey, so this past week, surprise, surprise, Governor Kay Ivey announced that she's running for re-election. Someone said, it seems like she's already had 2 terms, Susan, but she has been here a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, she took over from Bentley, took 2 years there, and then took her own term, and now she's running again. It's no surprise to anybody. We've been expecting this announcement for months and months and months, and I think she's going to end up doing well. She's very popular, very popular.
Josh, I would say that she is one of the finest governors we've had in decades, but she is a Republican, she is a conservative, therefore the Democrats came out with a list of things they didn't like about the Kay Ivey administration this week. You think they might run somebody against her?
Yeah, I'm guessing that they'll have a candidate or two, and yeah, we'll agree to disagree on how fine of governor she is. I don't think she's been as bad as some other Republican governors around the country have been. She's been far more moderate and more reasonable, and I think even Democrats would agree that she is somebody that you can have a conversation with about issues and topics, and is willing to work with them on things. So you know that is appreciated, but at the same time, there's obviously a difference of opinion on how to run this state, and I think that they make some pretty good points. If you look at the rankings where we are in education and you know a number of different issues, healthcare, you know we fall behind. We're ranked in the bottom 5 in a lot of categories, and I think that the Democrats should be able to put forward a candidate that should resonate with people if everybody doesn't like being in the bottom 5.
Well, I like Governor Ivey. I think she's done a great job. She is a Republican, so she's going to do those types of things. I tell you what's humorous is Jim Ziegler, the Alabama buffoon, auditor, I'm sorry. He came out this week, Josh, and said that a lot of people were pushing him to run. Now, I think they were pushing him to run out in front of a car, but he said pushing him to run for governor.
Yeah, they just wanted him to go jogging. They didn't want him to run for governor. I mean, I don't think...
target on his back.
Yeah, nobody pushes him to run for governor. I mean, just stop. I mean, maybe they are pushing him to run for governor because they know he has no shot, and this will be the easiest way to get rid of Jim Ziegler. But, it just is... no, there's no chance. Come on, stop it.
There is a coalition of some serious people with some influence and power that are looking to maybe challenge Governor Ivey. I think some of it's just spoiled grapes or soured grapes. They just wanted power. They want more power. And she's tough. She's tough.
She is very tough. She's very tough, and she's a very good campaigner.
Yeah, I think she'll have a Trump-ish candidate to contend with in the primary. And so I think that there will be somebody that runs against her. And I mean, from my point of view, it would be just horrible if that split up the Republican Party in such a way that damaged them going forward. I know it would be terrible.
I know you'd be in tears.
Well,
right?
I tell you what, I believe Governor Ivey would beat all comers like a rented mule. And I just think she's tough. She's a good campaigner. She's done a great job, and she's got more powerful friends than they got. So there you go.
She can raise money like nobody's
I think she's going to win. I just, I'm just saying. I think
you just want to divide the Republicans. I see.
Yeah,
They're pretty well divided already.
I just like the chaos. That's all. Yeah, I just like the chaos.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of that. Well, speaking of chaos, all we can do is look at the Senate race. Katie Boyd Britt, head of the Business Council of Alabama, resigned that position. And speculation is, Susan, that she will announce a bid for the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, it's been speculated for a while, and I'm kind of excited. I hope she does this because I think she just make a fantastic senator. I really do. I
mean, and all full disclosure, she is no relation to us, but we do have a very good relationship with her.
Yes.
We're not blood or kin, but we have a good relationship. Josh, here again, Mo Brooks went on the attack saying that she's a swamper. And I don't think he meant the folks that do the music up in Muscle Shoals.
No, and I'll not vote for Katie Britt, where our politics don't align. But I'll say that I would bet that in 11 years she could get one bill passed, which would be more than Mo Brooks has managed. And listen, the idea that somebody is more swampy than Mo Brooks is ridiculous. I mean, as his other opponent in the U.S. Senate race has highlighted, he's taken money from all sorts of the usual suspects, the corporate conglomerates out there. He's been nothing but a leech on the system for years and done nothing.
Hey, I don't know how he paints himself, Susan, as an outsider when he spent his entire adult life on the government dole.
Exactly.
I mean, he's always had a taxpayer job.
Right.
That's it.
He's always had a taxpayer job. I mean, he's done nothing for it.
No.
He's like, just we passed one bill to rename a post office.
Yeah.
That's not being a good representative. I'm sorry. You need to be thinking about the health of your community and your district and all that, which, it just doesn't.
So how do you paint yourself as an outsider, Josh, when you've been in Congress for 5 terms, so 10 years. Before that, you were in the state legislature. Before that, you were a prosecutor. I mean, this guy is 65, 66 years old and has spent his career in government.
Well, I think he's confusing the term outsider with the fact that nobody likes him. So it's I think that's the problem. Like, listen, just because nobody likes you and wants to work with you doesn't mean you're an outsider. It just means you're kind of a jerk, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, well, that may be it. We may be maybe
looking at the wrong way here.
I mean, looking at it the wrong way. I mean, he said he loved Donald Trump. He hates Donald. He didn't trust Donald Trump. Then he said he loved Donald Trump. Now he says he's an outsider who's been an insider for 40 years. I mean, the one thing we know about Mo Brooks, you can't believe a word he said.
He was on that train on January 6th, buddy. He was right there with the rest of the swampers.
Riding that train.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tried to
the only thing you can count on from Mo Brooks is that Mo Brooks will always do what's best for Mo Brooks.
All right. Well, that's got to be the last word on this segment. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
Your career isn't a job, it's a journey. Your next job could lead to bigger things, and you're in charge of how fast and how far you want to go. At alabamaworks.com, you can connect with employers and start working right now. Then chart your path forward with training and career planning tools. That next paycheck is great, but it's only the beginning. Start a great success story at alabamaworks.com.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. So, Josh, it's announcement season. Steve Marshall put out a press release a few days ago, said that he was going to have a press conference on Thursday to announce his political future. And the suspense was so thick, it was like a New Orleans afternoon. But there was nothing to it. It was a bogus announcement. I mean, it was nothing.
Yeah, no, he's got to run for Attorney General again, and so it's yeah, I know, right? It's like a old football coach once told me, out with the old, in with the old. And you know, it's look, and again, here we are. We're in the same position where, you know, is this what you want out of your Attorney General's office? Do you want this sort of pandering, you know, superficial nothingness as your Attorney General, or do you, you know, honestly, I hate to say it because of the way he behaved at the end, but would you rather have a guy like Luther Strange, who actually treated the job the way it should be treated, where you're rooting out public corruption and standing up for consumer rights? I
agree.
I hate it. You know, listen, I have said publicly that I think Luther Strange probably ought to be indicted for what he did with the North Birmingham scandal. But at the same time, the way he handled himself up until that point with the public corruption stuff and the consumer protection things, I think that's exactly what you want out of your Attorney General, and Steve Marshall doesn't do any of that.
No, he doesn't. He is not going to offend anyone in the Republican Party or anyone in the business community. He's just not going to do it. He'll go after a Democratic sheriff in, you know, a rural county, or he'll go after somebody that he doesn't think will ruffle any feathers. But other than that, he shows up for work. He likes to.
And we know of cases that are sitting over there on their desks that are just ripe for prosecution, and they've been there for months. Some of them for a few years.
Not going to prosecute.
And they're not prosecuted. They're not. It's sitting there. It's wrapped up with a little red bow on top and everything. They don't even pick it up.
Josh, he's just waiting. He's just what do they call it? Making eight.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
You know, and listen, this goes to, I mean, I think to a larger problem that we have in the state here, and where people have been conditioned to vote for party over people, and I think it's something that we've got to get away from. You know, and to look at these things and decide what you want out of an Attorney General, out of a governor, out of a Secretary of State, and decide what's important to you in those positions. And I mean, listen, it can't be sending out 15 press releases a week about, you know, fighting the Biden agenda or supporting the Trump agenda or those sorts of things. Those mean nothing to you. All right, they don't. I mean, it doesn't matter that the Attorney General of Alabama is sending a press release to the White House telling Biden to stop fracking or not stop fracking. It doesn't matter. Right. That's not what you want out of your guy.
And these are the problems that we have as a state, because once they, you know, look, the Democrats did it for years. That Democrat controlled everything, and then, but they had two factions. And the factions kept them basically being more honest than not. Now, for the last decade, we've had Republicans. We're starting to see two Republican factions come forward. But the truth is, when you get somebody like Marshall, who really doesn't have any ideology, he just wants to be elected. He wants to run for office. He wants the government job. So they don't do the job that the people have elected him for. But the problem is the people just elect the party, not the person.
Exactly.
I think a strong Republican who had a track record could beat somebody like Steve Marshall if they had the money. I'd love to see Matt Hart run for AG. That would change the world, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Well, it would change the office, and you know, But again, this shouldn't be a contest in that. You know that. This is, you want somebody to do the job. These are jobs that you're hiring people for, not just offices. These are jobs that you're electing somebody to perform this function, because we've determined that it's a necessity for the state to function. Is you need an Attorney General there to make sure that consumer rights are protected and a variety of things there. Yeah. And listen, I mean, Steve Marshall has done some things that I've agreed with, but the last 2 years has been this great pandering fest where he seems to be more interested in setting himself up for future office than
That's
he
right.
does for doing the actual job.
No,
And that's
I mean,
not what you want.
He's treating it like a popularity contest and not an actual job.
He's looking, if you really do the job of AG right, you're not going to be popular.
Right.
You're going to be
Right.
an unpopular guy.
Exactly.
So that's the problem here.
I'm quite sure Mike Hubbard absolutely hates Luther Strange's guts.
Well, sure he does. Well, we're going to have to jump on the two subjects. Will Ainsworth, Lieutenant Governor, he's going to run. No surprise there. So I guess, will anybody dare run against Will Ainsworth?
Why bother?
You know, I mean,
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I think the Democrats will put up a candidate and run there, but I don't given the way the state is, I don't believe that it'll be much of a contest. And it's I look forward to Will making his tour with the Tigers again.
I do too. I look forward. Hey, we got about a minute and a half. Can you kind of give us an overview of what this thing is with Mo Brooks running from a subpoena?
Yeah. So Eric Swalwell, Representative Eric Swalwell, filed a lawsuit against 4 people: Mo Brooks, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, and Don Trump Jr. Concerning the riots that occurred, a failed insurrection that happened on January the 6th. And he basically is saying that these 4 people contributed to the riots that were caused. And by doing so, by speaking at the rally and telling these lies for weeks about election fraud and riling these people up, and then encouraging them to go to the Capitol and stop the ballot counting process, they incited a riot, and it violates anti-terrorism statutes. And he is claiming emotional distress, and I think he was going to call some other representatives to do so. He has attempted to serve subpoenas, letting them know, these 4 people know that they're part of this lawsuit. 3 of those people have waived service and said that they're aware of it and has filed responses. One person has not. That's Mo Brooks, and he is apparently hiding in a basement somewhere at the Capitol trying to avoid the service of this thing because he, from what I understand, desperately doesn't want to have to, possibly turn over any information.
This seems like a scene from The Shining, where Jack Nicholson is following the woman. She's trying to get out of the house. Here, piggy, piggy, piggy. Here, piggy, piggy, piggy. I mean, I don't know. All right, well, we're going to have to leave it right there. Mo's on the run, all right? You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
If you've been working, you've already proven yourself in ways you may not even notice. Managing your time, communicating effectively, and working as part of a team are key skills that employers value. At alabamaworks.com, you can find out how to build on your experience to up your game and get the job you really want because it's out there. Start your new success story at alabamaworks.com.
Sponsored by Alabama Works, the Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Well, Susan, the deadline for the financing on the prisons, the new prisons that Governor Kay Ivey had hoped to build, has passed. June 1st was the deadline on that. The governor says she will now work with the House and the Senate and others to explore additional or alternative ways of funding these prisons. I see that Nora was taking a toll on your earring, right? There you go.
It's all right.
It's a trick earring. We bought it on Bourbon Street.
Right. No, it expired on June the 1st. I'm not sure what other plans that they have at this point. Nobody's been exploring anything at this point.
I think what they're going to do, Josh, is they're going to have to get the legislature to come up with a plan. I think that's all there is to it, isn't there?
So they're going to do nothing. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do nothing.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. No, it's listen. I think that's their plan. Is that they're going to do nothing, and they're going to wait on the Department of Justice and the federal courts to rule against them, and then the feds will take over the prison system in Alabama, and they'll determine how we need to run it and what monies, millions and millions and millions of dollars that we need to dump into these prisons to correct all of the many issues that we have ignored now for ever. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, we know, we've seen them work. They're not going to come up with a plan. They're not.
Yeah. I mean, Governor Ivey did everything within her power to force through a plan. Mm-hmm. But what happened is the market for financing prisons, the investors are just not lining up to finance prisons anymore. It's just not there. No. It's unpopular.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and it should be unpopular. I mean, and it should have been unpopular with everybody in this state. Listen, I understand why she did what she was doing. And I don't necessarily fault her for attempting that pathway, because that was the only pathway available to her to solve this. But it should never have gotten to that point, and it should never have been an option for the people of this state to accept, because it's not it's not the proper way to run your prison systems, and it's not something that we should want out of our prison system. Right. We can do this. There are ways that we've done it. There are states that do it very, very successfully every single day, and they cost less than what we're spending, and they don't treat people inhumanely like we do. They don't have near the deaths, and they don't have near the drugs and issues that are in there. And maybe start with a different guy in charge of corrections. I don't know.
The problem is, at least I've seen over the years, is the legislature does not want to do anything about prisons, because you can't go out and say, hey, you know what I did? Mm-hmm. We borrowed money so we could build prisons.
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't sell at any kind of any kind of rally.
No, it doesn't.
More prisons, more prisons.
It doesn't sell at all, and it's a complicated problem. It's a complicated issue. I will say, if they treated this the right way, it could be a fairly popular issue with some people in their districts, namely people who build prisons and do construction work. So it's, you could have that going for you guys if you would get out there and actually do some of this. But, I think there are plans that are very, very workable and would help the overall structure of our prison system, and mainly help the human beings who are suffering daily in them.
That's right. It is not a liberal or a conservative idea. It is a constitutional idea that we must treat prisoners humanely.
And the conditions, I can attest, we've been to 3 prisons, are absolutely inhumane.
Y'all visited 3 prisons.
We didn't stay.
No.
We didn't do it.
Surrounded by guards. It was a very scary experience.
And I want to move on to something. It is a year anniversary since a peaceful protest in downtown Huntsville turned into a riot with the police doing the rioting, is the way I saw it.
Right.
If you looked at the footage, you had peaceful protesters. All of a sudden, those folks were surrounded by tear gas. We believe some rubber bullets or beanbag bullets were fired. And it just looked like a black mark on Huntsville. The investigation, Josh, has been mostly a sham, hasn't it?
Well, I think they did a fairly good job with the reporting out of that, but they've not done a fairly good job of actually addressing the problems.
Maybe that's better. That's a better way.
I mean, I felt like the reporting the report that was issued there, I felt like they did a pretty good job with that and identifying the things, and got to a lot of stuff that they could get to, given the resistance by police officers and by the Madison County Sheriff's Office and ALEA. That didn't make their officers or anybody available for interview, and so I felt like that was, but it hadn't been handled well. There's been very little fallout from that. Of course, at the same time, right after that, that they've now kept a convicted murderer on the police payroll for over a month, or for a month at this point.
I mean, this man was this police officer was convicted of murder. They found him guilty. The jury of his peers. And Tommy Battle, the mayor of Huntsville, still standing behind this guy. He still has a job.
Yeah, still getting paid. Taxpayer
It's
money.
listen, on our podcast this week, Alabama Politics This Week, cheap plug. We interviewed a police chief. He's currently actually the chief of security in charge of the facilities in New Orleans. And so he is, and he's been a police chief in Maryland, been a police chief in South Dakota, and several other places. And he talked about some of the problems in Huntsville and addressed, what's kind of going on there. And I would encourage a lot of people to listen to it because I think you get a clear perspective from him about why this is wrong, about what's taking place here. And it's a top-down issue in Huntsville right now, and there's a real question of whether or not that top starts at the police chief or it starts in the mayor's office. And I think we're going to have to see, depending on what happens and how they handle it going forward, which one is true.
One of the most wonderful places in Alabama, that Huntsville, Madison area, and yet it has these problems that could be fixed with just a few firings. Josh, tell people how they can get to your podcast, because we listen to it in the car, and it's really, you do a great job.
Well, thank you. You can get it on any of the platforms, any of the normal podcast platforms, Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, all of those normal places, and it's Alabama Politics This Week. Search for that, and you'll find us.
All right. Well, I recommend it.
I do too.
Especially if you're a Democrat and you want to hear some more liberal ideas, and if you're a Republican and want to have Josh cause your head to explode.
Well, and also there's a lot of information like you were just talking about with the police department. There's a lot of very good information.
All right, well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching The V all the way from New Orleans, Louisiana, in the French Quarter. You watch us because we watch them.